I'm just going to give you a pretty high-level overview of some of the international data coordination activity I've been involved in, and at least one other person, Bill Manley, on the call has also been involved in. Sorry, just trying to get my screen to switch. There we go. So for any of you who've been around a little while, I think you're aware that there's a lot been going on over the last decade in particular, and particularly over the International Polar Year in the way of data management. There's been a number of formal and informal networks that have been established, some that formed for the IPY and have since disappeared, and others that have sustained over time. During that period of the IPY and after, we also saw a number of different workshops and major events. So a few of them are listed here. A workshop in Yellowknife in 2007, meetings for the IPY in Oslo, Montreal. The Project Daily Loca had a major workshop in 2011. And then a really, I think, major event for the international community was the Polar Data Forum held in Tokyo in October of 2013. So a lot has been happening on the international front. Most of those initiatives have some sort of output in the form of reports, et cetera. I won't go into them here, but they're out there and can be read. So one of the things that I think we've recognized in this coordination effort, or this initiative that we're working on, is that there's a lot out there. We know a lot already. So certainly we can always learn more, but we really need to start building on what we've established in terms of the needs and the requirements and what we need to do to move forward in the area of data management. A group of us got together on that front and put together a paper that was published last year. This actually came out of the Polar Data Forum in 2013, but was published late last year, just talking about putting together an international polar data coordination network. And the paper talks at a fairly abstract level, but really looks at the idea of building on networks and network science to try and understand how we can really make one of these networks work. It's a real challenge. Like IARPIC, at least the networking activity is budget neutral. We don't have large amounts of funds. People are coming on their own dime, so to speak. And we need to figure out a way to sort of move us forward in terms of collaboration and sharing. So we put together some ideas about, how we would build a network based on existing resources, based on initiatives that are out there, and linking those together, and how to facilitate that. So one of the things that we certainly want to do is recognize what is already there. And so you'll see a number of nodes in this network, including the science agencies, the existing Standing Committee on Antarctic Data Management that's been around for many years, Research Data Alliance, et cetera. In concert with, the activity that's been going on in the data management community, there's also been a lot of activity within the broader science community. And so you start to see major organizations like IASC, for example, recognizing the importance of data management and sound data management for science. So in April of 2013, they released a statement of principles and practice for Arctic data management. So a group of us worked together on that for about 6 months and published it. And one of the recommendations was to establish a data standing committee for the Arctic, the same way that there is one established for the Antarctic, to try and actually do some coordination. There's just a URL down there with the info if you want to reference that. So this committee was actually formed in November of 2014. It actually started out as 2 committees, the IASC Data Committee and the SAON Data Committee. And we all agreed when we met that there was no need to have multiple data committees, that often with the same people on the committee. So that has been merged into simply the Arctic Data Committee. During the meeting in Potsdam in November, we had a lot of discussion about what the priorities of the committee should be. We all agreed that we really want to build on existing resources and facilitate the success of effective existing programs rather than trying to start up some new program or new initiative. And so part of that is first, as has happened, I think, in a number of IARPIC groups, is to take a bit of an inventory and understand the Arctic data management ecosystem. And so we started that at the workshop, and that's an ongoing effort to try and identify at least the major nodes in the network, or what I'd actually call the hubs in the network, that will help us to then link to individual initiatives. Another issue that came up, and actually Stan's talk really pointed this idea of metadata and metadata elements. And so in this case, we don't have the mandate to try and standardize metadata around the globe for polar science, but the idea is to look at what's happening, and very specifically, for example, we have a telecon planned for next week with some folks from the ADIWIG group to talk about how that work can be leveraged. There's some work going on with Polar Data Catalog in Canada, Norway, Japan, et cetera. So what we're trying to do is see what's already happening and see how we can keep that moving. We also know there's a lot going on with respect to data citation and publication. So in that regard, we're simply putting together a brief statement that will point polar scientists to information about that. There's a lot of good stuff out there already through RDA and a number of other groups, ESIP, et cetera. And lastly, what we want to do as we move forward, and this is a bit of a medium to long-term goal, which is an interoperability experiment. And so knowing that a number of different data centers and organizations are publishing data through web services and newer models of data publication, how can we bring that together into an application that serves science and society? So in that regard, we are not doing this on our own. We're actually partnering with the SEON Sister Committee, which is the Committee on Observing Networks, who are then partnering with a number of other groups, national and international groups. So looking to them for guidance on what kind of questions and issues that we need to address with this experiment, rather than just have it be a technical activity. So that is all starting to move forward. We're going to be doing our first reporting at Arctic Science Summit Week in Toyama at the end of April. Another big initiative that's not strictly an Arctic Data Committee initiative, but is part of this overall push, is a follow-on to the first Polar Data Forum in Tokyo. Myself and Ellsworth LeDrew from Polar Data Catalog in Canada are co-chairing, along with Julie Friedel. And that has now been confirmed for the week of the 27th to 29th of October. So we will have a 2.5-day forum, along with the business meetings of both SCADM, these Antarctic folks, and the Arctic Data Committee. So we're looking at it as a Polar Data Week. And you'll see more about that in the coming weeks and months. And Marco can't be here, but thanks to him, he has helped to support the effort in terms of moving it forward with some small funding. So really, why I'm interested in discussing with this group, or presenting to this group, follows on a conversation I had with Joe and some others a couple of weeks back, where I shared some of this information, and we talked about the role of IARPIC and ADCT. And so we know in the U.S., like some other countries, we have a lot going on. It's a distributed system with dedicated data centers. Under NSF, we have many. So data management plans are now the norm, so we're seeing a lot more in the way of data management. We have the A2DC that was mentioned earlier, this Research Coordination Network, ACADIS, PGC, LOCA, RMAP, and a number of others that are NSF funded. Of course, we have the NASA DAX, NOAA, all kinds of different things going on. So, the U.S. is its own complex data ecosystem. And so where I talked to Joe, or what I talked to Joe about, was, can we start to see a group like the IARPIC ADCT as one of these hubs or initiatives that can at least link these different projects across agencies and across research institutions, et cetera, so that then can be connected to a larger international effort. And that's where I think in the future weeks, months, and years, I'd like to try and see where do the U.S. hubs and nodes fit within this broader international picture. And I think we're making a lot of good progress in a relatively short amount of time, and I'd certainly like to engage this group as we move forward at the international level. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. Any quick questions for Peter relative to that? Excellent. Thanks, Peter. I really appreciate that. We're going to hear a lot more about that. I'm looking forward to engaging with you on the team. I think some of your thoughts and some of the work you're doing has great promise in terms of answering some of the outcomes that this particular collaboration team is looking for. So thank you again.